There's a reason ownership is the first step on our journey to a more balanced life. It's pillar one, as I call it. We all crave support, advice, and quick fixes, but the truth is, lasting change starts with us. No matter how much we wish someone else would wave a magic wand, the power to shape our lives ultimately rests in our hands. This is especially true in the workplace. In today's episode, the top 5 reasons taking ownership at work is hard. Let's explore why owning our situation at work is the crucial first step towards improving ourselves, our teams, and our organizations. But first, welcome to the Hope is Not a Plan podcast, where we address tough questions head on, face our problems, and highlight our hopes by providing actionable planning steps to improve ourselves, mind, body, and spirit. Now, let's get logged in and get locked on to this episode of the Hope is Not a Plan podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the Hope is Not a Plan podcast. Please visit hopeisnotaplan.org for more references, templates, tools, techniques, videos, interviews, all that good stuff. Some product discounts there. The first of these 5 reasons taking ownership at work is hard is fear of failure. Atychiphobia is an intense fear of failure. It may cause you to put off or avoid activity or scenario that has the potential for an unsuccessful outcome, right? Potential. So this is that catastrophizing that I've talked about with mental health stuff in our brain. There are numerous studies in psychology and organizational behavior that demonstrate the pervasive nature of fear, right? It locks us up of failure. The fear can paralyze folks. It prevent them from taking risks, right? Which in some instances is good. It keeps us safe from not just jumping off a bridge, but it also can keep us from making decisions, right? That paralysis by analysis thing. I have seen this often in public safety and in project management where people are put into positions where they're charged with facilitating the success, and they're often faced with the need to report unsuccessful ventures or significant challenges, right? That's life. This leads to maybe folks not wanting to progress in the career, thinking, well, I don't want all that headache, or not going out for leadership positions. But there's some reasons for that, and those are the other 4 that build on this fear of failure. But it's getting past that fear, and we've all had fears. We all have fears of different things. I don't love flying. Tight spaces. I'm getting more claustrophobic as I get older a bit. But taking ownership in this fear of failure state of mind, it often requires stepping outside of our comfort zone, right? Which can be terrifying. The fear of being blamed, criticized, losing your job, right? It can hinder us from taking full responsibility, right? If you've been at work or in a meeting and something's happening and it's they or them and no one told me and you didn't do this, right? Here's the thing. Right? When you start taking ownership at work, you are going to get blamed. You are going to be criticized. You could lose your job if you really screw up. But most likely, they'll see you taking this ownership as strength, as more of a trustworthy activity, right? And the critics are often not in the arena themselves, right? Man in the arena, it's not the critic that counts. It's the one that's in there with us, essentially. Meaning a lot of folks that criticize people that do take ownership don't take ownership themselves. They point fingers. They're just mad. They don't, participate in the group, right? And if a job is lost because of honesty and ownership, then maybe that job is not worth staying in. So what's an action we can take from this? How can you help your team members get over their fears? What I found helpful is during regular one-on-ones, give your team members a pep talk. Now, be honest, but don't fluff it up, because that's also not fair. If you've had or worked with team members where they've been pumped up and fluffed up, but they're really not delivering, that's also a problem. But we're focused on failure in this step, right? We're going to be honest. We're not going to inflate their ego. We're going to build their confidence. There's a reason you were chosen for this. I know that you're, let's say, a staff level person, but we all want your feedback and your opinion, right? A lot of people think because of their position, they don't deserve to be as outspoken or help guide or create new things. And that's just not true. That's how you change things. Remind them that no project is perfect or no work effort. So we don't expect them to be, and we don't expect their reports to be. But we have to help them pass the fear of being honest and reporting. And that leads us to the second one, cultural barriers. So the first 2 of the 5 reasons folks hesitate at taking ownership. The first is fear of failure, and the second is the culture, right? If you research on organizational culture, consistently shows that cultures that prioritize blame, avoidance, hierarchy, it impedes ownership, and certainly nobody wants to be there, and people are unhappy. right? It's just not gonna improve the team. It's not gonna help folks realize the mistakes we made, learn from them, and move on. This is where their culture of supporting and encouraging and not using escalation as a stick, meaning, should I reach out to so-and-so because of this? But rather, yes, we should reach out to them because I need help, because we need help, because they can help using their position. And I've been fortunate to work with leaders like that, where they say, please reach out to me, let me know. They know the position they're in, and they can be a huge helper, not just the principal that you're going to see in the office because you're in trouble. And it won't, change up front. It's got to take time to change the culture. But there also should be that leader's intent to the culture to say, hey, this is the deal now. We are going to ask for help. We are going to escalate issues to not surprise leaders, and it's not a bad thing, right? They must consistently remind our teams as leaders when mistakes are made that it's okay, you got to consult us and help you. Do the Jerry Maguire, right? Help me help you. That's a great statement. It's a genius part of that movie. So if you're a leader, and again, we all are at some level, but if you're a leader and you have people that report to you, how can you help change your culture of your people below you and of your people above you? One, set the example by being transparent. Report on your own work in front of everybody else and be honest about it. That sets a great example, right? Ask for help when you need it, because we all need help sometime. And while first we have to take ownership and get past our fear, we also got to change this culture that it's not okay to ask for help, because it 100% is. If you have one-on-one meetings with your team members, which I highly encourage you do, check in on how they feel. Not just what's the status of a thing, but how are you? Are you overwhelmed? Is there something bothering you? What's going on? So that the playing field is even from an emotional standpoint. And proactively give those folks help if they want to ask for it. Some folks are too proud, not used to it. This is cultural change. So it's both the individual and the environment that individual's been in that we have to help change and make better for that person's benefit. So sometimes it helps to say, hey, I got you this person who's an expert in this thing that you're not, and I'm going to pair them up with you. And that's pretty helpful, right? It's like a left seat, right seat pilot training, right? The person in the left seat is the seasoned pilot. The one on the right is the co-pilot or the trainee or whatever it is. And I'm not a pilot, so I'm doing this based on some folks I know that are pilots, and it's a great way to share knowledge. So we're going to push past our fear. We're going to, as leaders, build up this culture and remove the cultural barriers. And then some folks feel like they lack empowerment, right? That's why they don't want to own things at work, because they feel like, well, you're just going to tell me, or I don't have the power to do that. And again, studies, they keep talking about studies, and we can link to some of these as well. But there is a lot of importance in giving folks autonomy and control of what they do. Right? When employees feel empowered to make decisions, they're more likely to take ownership. If individuals feel like they've limited control over their work and outcomes, they're less likely to take responsibility. They're probably not going to be happy either, right? And top down, meaning do these things. All that does is make folks bots that execute things. Some folks want to live in that if they're real introverted, but most folks don't. They want to use their brain. They want to be challenged a bit. So how do we empower our employees? If we're able, let them pick their assignments. I'm very fortunate in the organization that I'm in and have been in the past. We would look at what's best to meet the need of the customer. And then within those confines say, okay, team, here's your opportunity to pick your work for the next year or your shift or whatever it is. You want to talk about the ultimate choose your own adventure or destiny. That's a huge opportunity to do that. So think about how you can do that or consider it. Don't sit in on all your team members' meetings, right? If you're there all the time, you're not empowering them to have autonomy and be on their own. Now, do sit in on some that you can get the tempo for what they're like. We have to do evals. There's a practical aspect to it. Get the pulse of their work. But if you're on every single meeting, you're like, copy me on that, copy me on this, invite me to that. Like that just says micromanager. It's not good, right? Don't insist that you have to make all the decisions about X, for X about Y, right? It should be guided by competence, trust, and organizational policy. Now, there are some policies, so meaning agree on and talk through some trigger points, right? If a project goes to X status or the spend is above Y dollars, then we need to talk about it before you take action. That's just practical, right? That's just good partnership. But beyond that, if it's below a certain amount of money, use your discretion. If you're not confident, I'm here for you, but I'm trusting you with this, right? If your project's going well, even if it's not going well, but you all have a plan, awesome. If you feel stuck, I'll come in and help you. but you've empowered them to find those solutions. That's the coaching part. The consulting part is then I'm going to give you an answer or help you get there more proactively, either when I see it or when you do. But first, I'm going to work past this lack of empowerment. So barrier 1's fear of failure. 2, cultural barriers. 3, lack of empowerment. 4, overwhelming responsibility. Maybe they have too much, right? There's a lot of burnout research that suggests like excessive workload and pressure will reduce people's performance, of course, their engagement, and then they don't want to take ownership. They've just got so much on their plate, right? If their scope of responsibility is too vast, it can be overwhelming and they'll avoid work and do things and they're underwater all the time, right? Treading water is hard. Doing it all the time at work is just not good. So how do we help with that? To me, we should provide work for our folks that's in their wheelhouse. What's their background? What do they like? And this comes from conversations and their work history a bit, but what is their expertise? Most people are comfortable within an environment of a thing they have done. So put them in that place primarily, but not only. And that's the second point of how we can help them is push them towards their limits, but not through the barrier of their comfort zone. So don't just throw someone in, and you hear this in various arenas in life and in work of, we're just going to go in the deep end. That's old school, and that's why people used to quit all the time. Or maybe quitting your company now, who knows? And it's not fair. So pair them with an expert, that left seat, right seat thing I talked about earlier. It's very helpful, and it grows them professionally. I would also manage their and your expectations, right? Have real conversations. Here's the responsibility that you have. Here's the expectations. And I want you to tell me, right? And it varies by level. If I'm brand new in a career ladder, so for me, I'm in project management now and program management. And so you usually start as an associate or a project coordinator, then you're a staff, you're a project manager, then you're senior, then you're manager, then and on, right? And so you have different expectations at different levels. And it can feel overwhelming as you go up because you're expected to be able to do more and do more at the same time and then keep innovating and keep doing better. But I'm going to vary that and tailor that expectation with the individual, right? I'll share examples of work I've done, work the team's done, ask the team to share that. So it's not just me saying, look how cool I am, look at all this stuff, but also have frameworks and templates and processes that you share. And ask their colleagues to work with them, right? Because there are very different conversations between coworkers than a team member and their manager. And that's okay. And that's how it should be. It's just like I have a different conversation with my mom than I do with my dad when I want something or, So it's very similar in that regard, in that if I'm sitting in on the discussion all the time, some folks aren't going to want to talk as much as if they're with their teammates. And that's totally fine. So the responsibility is an expectation where they have to have some, but gauge how they're feeling, kind of like we talked about earlier too. And the fifth thing for me is lack of skills and knowledge, right? And so you have to have the tools, you have to have the knowledge to effectively address the challenges that you're given by your work, by your boss, by the demand that's coming in there. And certainly a lack of skills, a lack of these abilities can hinder, right, a lot of the engagement and the stuff that we talked about earlier. So how do we give those skills? We create a solid orientation. And this is an area throughout my career that I've seen really well and not well, and both I've been part of or been, the one coming into it is make a good orientation process and templates and things to refer to. So let's say someone has a knowledge gap. They can kind of look at that and go, oh, maybe I follow this document and it helps walk me through it, or process diagram or whatever. Set up the shadowing opportunities I talked about earlier, right? We're gonna pair you up with this other PM. They've been here a while. They know the organization. They know the processes, and feel free to ask them questions, and you all let me know how I can support you. Consider internal training from your company, right? Most companies, private, public, etc., offer some sort of training, professional development. And then there's formal professional training, right? Certifications, things that are job pertinent. So there's so many tools, but we have to be open to do that. And some of this costs money. So you as a leader, if you have a budget, you need to consider taking care of your people as a chunk of your budget, right? Not just keeping the lights on and not just new cool stuff. What about the folks that are here, and how do we keep them moving forward? Thank you all for moving forward through this podcast. So let's do a quick recap, right? The top 5 reasons that I've found in taking ownership of work is hard is fear of failure. And I've been there, right? When we do hard things, we think, what if this fails? 2, cultural barriers. We got to create a culture where it's okay to make mistakes, where it's okay to ask for help. 3, lack of empowerment, right? If we're top down driving decisions all the time, that doesn't build our team up. 4, overwhelming responsibility. Maybe we gave someone too much too fast and they don't feel supported. Now they're lost. And 5, lack of skills and knowledge. So that one we can find the solution to, I think, more easily than some of the other ones. Here are references that I have found very helpful to help me take ownership. The first, you may have been waiting for me to say this whole time or already heard, is Extreme Ownership by Jocko, Willink, and Leif Babin. It uses principles really from leadership and ownership throughout, but their focus and their niche is they're Navy SEALs, and so how Navy SEALs in combat, the 4 laws of combat and all how that works. But the principles, and they say this in the book and on Jocko podcasts and everywhere else, they're universal, right? But it all starts with you, totally you. And the quote, "There is no shortcut, there is no hack, there's only one way, so get after it," from Jocko Willink is the primary foundation for all ownership, right? Another book is Unfu Yourself by Gary John Bishop. This is a no-nonsense way for you to look at yourself and go, what am I doing? Why am I asking the people on Reddit to solve my human problems? While that's a great reference, or why do I think that the person over there is blaming me? And it's all these things. It's basically look at yourself and work hard to solve your own stuff. One book that's probably in every category that I'll ever talk about is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. You want to talk about having to own where you are, keeping your hope, putting a plan together. That man and those that survived with him did, and even those that didn't survive, right? They worked so hard, but they had to own where they were and maintain the scraps and their mindset and keep pushing through freezing snow and just super hard things. And then one that I get regular inspiration and motivation from is Joyce Meyer's Enjoying Everyday Life radio podcast. So it's on Apple Podcasts. And Joyce typically shares 15, 20 maybe minute podcast episodes, very focused on real application of faith. And that's that pillar 7, right? That I say of the 7 pillars, and just a no nonsense way to do it. And it's really resonated with me, and I think can with other folks, whether you are a Christian or not. It's just straightforward, whatever, insert God when she says God. And it makes sense. So truly taking ownership requires a combo of individual mindset shifts, organizational culture changes, which is probably one of the most challenging, and leadership support. We got to do this with leadership support and as leaders, right? It's essential to create an environment where individuals feel empowered, supported, and accountable. I think that last part is we focus so much on prop them up and be support, but we also got to hold people accountable, right? It's not free. You can't just do whatever you want because it's hard. It's hard for a lot of people, most everybody else you work with. So that's something to keep in mind, I think. So thank you for keeping me accountable with putting out new episodes of the Hope Is Not a Plan podcast, for allowing me to share pertinent episodes from past podcasts and guest interviews. Go check out the stream. I'll be loading more of those. Please visit hopeisnotaplan.org for more content, templates, tools, products. And to reach me directly, there's a contact me form there. Follow me on @HopesNotAPlan on Instagram and Twitter, and the Hope Is Not a Plan Facebook and YouTube Facebook page, and then a YouTube channel. And I'm proud and thankful to share that the YouTube channel just broke through 450,000 views. And I appreciate every view and comment that you all have given me. Next target is 1,000 subscribers. We're about 670. So check that out, please. Subscribe, share. Fitness 15 seconds at a time. Audio episodes of this. If you have the YouTubes up. Also some other educational videos. 15-second product reviews. Frozen pizzas. Protein bars. I'll be adding more things. So stay safe out there. Take ownership and start moving forward, or keep moving forward. You're doing great. It's hard. It's hard for ourselves. It's hard at work. And I wish you all Godspeed.